Welcome back to Take Two, presented by LeftRightPolitics.com, a discussion of the times and current events. Joined as always by Adam Matlack and Mike Pomerantz. Today I'd like to talk NASCAR. As we learn more about the noose incident, does Bubba Wallace have any culpability or responsibility in regards to exploiting the situation?
So, if you don't already know, a noose was found by his team. It was I don't know all the exact details of who found it and the timeline of it all, but it turned out to be a loop that was tied to the garage door pull down by the FBI's account, and that's what I'm going to stick with. That's been there since October of 2019. The FBI is not saying specifically it's not a hate crime. They're not going to pursue it, and they said that the track or the garage assignment could not have been known even a week ago. So that's what they have come out and said. I'm inclined to believe them just because, well, they've already been called incompetent, and everywhere else, I think they could probably figure that one out. If you were a regular person who knows Jesse Smollett, the whole thing, I just want to get it right out of the way. Like the associations, Smollett is, from all accounts, a baiter beyond baiter, somebody who is trying to use, hundreds of years of oppression and hate and all these things and divisiveness to put himself on a pedestal and all these things and make him important. And to relate what happened to Bubba and Bubba's response and all this stuff to Smollett it just shows you just how bad some people are. So it's not okay to do that because it's a totally different situation. Bubba didn't find this. His team did. And by all accounts, it was a loop on a rope, and it looked pretty dang much like a noose to them. And they're like, man, now, I would have appreciated somebody to go back and figure out how long this news has been here or whatever, this loop, yada, yada, yada. All these things that could have been figured out, I think, relatively easy before going big, but they went big with it. And I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, I don't think the walk of solidarity with the people saying, look, we stand up against these things. We like Bubba. We don't want this to happen. And moreover, it's the response by Wallace that was such badly managed. This guy is not really sponsored by anybody important. He's never won. He's a middle tier driver. That just is what it is. He could use sponsorships. He's been the guy who's been vocal about, well, I'm sure there's other people, but he's one of the guys who's been vocal about the Confederate flag. He's been in talks with NASCAR. This was a big situation, and this was played up by the media as, many pundits used it as a way to call out NASCAR fans. This is part of the racist behavior. This is part of the racist reality of NASCAR. And it turns out that, well, it probably wasn't anything more than just somebody tied a loop in a rope, and, they took it for that. Wallace's response should have been, I'm so relieved that this wasn't an attack on me. That wasn't his first take. His first take was, it was a noose. There's a thing. These are what happened. This is what's going on. It was defensive. And that was a bad play because in reality, I don't have anything against the guy. I think it wasn't bad publicity for the dude. And even in this case, even when they found out that it was the opposite, I still think it's decent publicity for him. I don't think it's on him, in terms of the weight, but the response that he later came back, I think just yesterday, kind of cleaned up his response saying, look, I'm happy about this, that there wasn't a targeted attack. I'm not going to let any of this stuff get in my way. I think the solidarity walk and all these other things with the things are powerful symbols, and we can do better regardless. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
The story for me is incredibly troubling because it feeds into a pretty consistent narrative where people who say that racism doesn't exist anymore, point to situations like this and say, you see, you are finding racists everywhere. You look under the bed, you find racists. You look up in the sky, you find racists. They're everywhere. And that is not true. I mean, what happened appears to be that a thing, and we looked at the picture of it before coming on the video. I mean, it looks like a freaking noose. And one of the other things that's pretty much lost in this, I don't know how it cuts, but we talked about it before, is that he wasn't the guy who first encountered it. And I think it was taken down so that he didn't see it initially. But as somebody who cares about this stuff, whoever at the facility or whoever on his pit crew saw it and talked about it, in my opinion, absolutely did the right thing, because NASCAR has earned that reputation. And more importantly, that knot has earned its reputation. Now, I know that there's some people out there who use that knot for other things, but man, when I look at that knot, there's only one thing that I can think about. And I don't base that on paranoia. I base that on history. Now, if he, look, I mean, I can indulge in the occasional conspiracy theory. When I first brought up this conversation, you know, I don't know how they're assigned, or they couldn't know that it was assigned. I don't know what the source of FBI information is that it's been there since October and that no one has ever moved it from that place and then moved it back. I don't know if there's 100 others in every other garage, or not 100, but maybe 20 or 30 others in all the other garages along that pit road. There's a lot of information I don't have. And when the Justice Department, when Bill Barr's Justice Department comes to me and they're like, trust me, I don't trust them. So I'm indulging in a little bit of potential conspiracy theory here. I find the whole thing troubling because it's not the same as Jesse Smollett, because we don't necessarily have any bad actor here. And I can agree that what Jesse Smollett did was wrong, not just from the point of view of race baiting, but from the point of view of like, I'm really interested in people telling the truth. I realize if I'm going to be a fan of politicians, that whole truth-telling thing is going to be a problem for me, both on Democrat, Republican, Green, Libertarian, everywhere. So I understand that I have a disadvantage, but you know, this does not appear to have a bad actor, and yet it is another story where people on not the right, but really the far right, can point to me, who is an open-minded person, who's a person who definitely is hard left, but also like tries to avail myself of as much information from the entire spectrum of points of view as I can. And it gives fuel for someone on the far right to say to me, no. You see, there's no such thing as racism. The thing had been there since October. You idiots see racism everywhere, and you need to stop calling out racism because it doesn't exist anymore. Nobody has said that to me. Nobody has said that. I mean, I've watched some Fox News coverage of this, looked at some Red State, some Breitbart. I'm not really seeing that spelled out, but I'm worried that it feeds the undercurrent, which gives animation to that point of view. And for anybody to say that racism doesn't exist and Obama was president, so it's all behind us now, and the Civil War was hundreds of years ago, you know, I don't want to hear that. I mean, I'll listen, but it's not true. And yet this event, the way it's played out so far, has given some life and some energy to that point of view. And that's a shame.
Yeah, I think it was 2 days ago. Richard is a big NASCAR guy. When this stuff broke, I was talking to people individually who was like, I was like, this sounds a little weird. The whole situation, why I haven't seen photos, the whole situation was just odd. It's like, if there was a noose, why didn't we see this? Why didn't I mean, this photo that you shared earlier would have like 100% put people in his camp regardless of what happened. Right. And it didn't. So I still don't understand the handling of it in many cases. Now, a lot of that's where the conspiracy theory lies, in my opinion, because the moment I think NASCAR found out about it, saw that knot, and was like, oh, crap, like we've got to do something overt, and we shouldn't let this photo get out. We shouldn't let these things get out. We need to call in the FBI. We need to be. That's where them not being transparent about what was going on really hurt them. And I think it was part of the, them trying to keep it under wraps because they didn't want that image to be seared into people's brains, right? But I mean, look, I talked to Richard and I said, look, this is the worst situation in this, deal here, is that because people will use it as an example to say racism is dead, and this is all in your imagination. Look, racism is in most of its purest forms is not tangible. It's very hard to nail down. It's not something. Bias is not easy to understand, and it's certainly not simple to. It's not easy to point at anymore. It's not. There's not a lot of these Klan rallies that are happening on TV where you'd be like, these people. There's not a lot of people who sit there and say. I mean, I don't know a single person. I've been asking around, a single person who literally believes that. And I've been asking about their parents. What do their parents believe? Because it's nowadays. I mean, there's not a single person I know who would openly say and admit that they believe that a race is inferior to the other because of color of skin. There's not a single person I know that would say it. Now, I've asked some people, and I'm not going to say their names, about their parents, and there's some parents who maybe would say that out loud. They wouldn't say it openly, but they would say it in their closed doors at home. So, look, it's sad because racism happens, but the tangible events that kind of have been played up in the media over the last 5-6 years, the biggest ones have sadly been the hoaxes. And that's I think in part because of the two-sided story, where it's like there are people who want to move past all of this and this shouldn't be the conversation. And there's people who want to be like, see, this is the real America. This is the real America. And this is the real NASCAR. And these people are awful and yada, yada, yada. And so I think it's that two-side playing everything up. And this is confirmation of what I believe. And then the reverse, this is confirmation of what I believe. So I would hope that we can get past this and people take a little bit of just reverence and respect for what has happened, like Mikey's talked about in the past, and what that not means and has meant to people over the years. And this wasn't a exercise. The exercise ropes in LA are just nuts. Like, there's nobody I know on the planet who would look at those ropes and think noose. This rope, it looks like a noose. I mean, it's fashioned like one. Now, I don't think it was an attack. I don't think it was deliberate at all. I've tied a loop at the end of a rope to pull it down. I don't think I would, I had no, and I think that's what was happening here. I legitimately think that was happening. If I was trying to send a message, I would have put that thing in his car or something, very much more overt. And that's a very different story. Now, I just really want people to stop. Like, the memes are already getting to me. I don't like it. I don't understand why we have to put Smollett's face on Bubba's body and all this crap. I mean, like, that's where the right and really kind of the alt-right bothered the ever-loving crap out of me, because of their lack of respect for people and situations that really demand far more sensitive responses. And it's just divisive. And I just wish, and I'm not part of the alt-right at all. Like, the treating of them, I'm barely even part of the right. And so the treatment of people, decency should be at its highest now. And as people feel under attack, it's clear that it's becoming more divisive, not less. And I just plead with people to change that and to try to, as Mikey says, you never understand what I've gone through, but you need to try. And so here we are. I would hope that people would understand that Bubba, in that situation, he almost certainly felt attacked because he was told he was. And what else? What else is he supposed to do?
I'll just throw out two more small points. One, it's another example of something that we talk about a lot, where the media goes too fast and compromises not only accuracy but durability. And so, and we've talked about that a lot, and it'll come up a lot more. But I think it's worth noting because this is another example of it. And then the last thing that I would say is, I think about the times where, and fortunately there haven't been too many, but I think about the times where I was so close to something really bad happening. Like I was so close to having a really bad car accident, or, like I dodged a bullet. And when that adrenaline kicks in, you want to know that you have the ability to react in a positive way so that you can sustainably defend yourself, preserve yourself. And I'm not a fan of NASCAR. I'm a big racing fan. I like F1 and endurance racing, but I am thrilled about what NASCAR did when that adrenaline kicked in. In other words, they recognized how close this was to a severed artery, which could, and there's billions of dollars at stake. I mean, it's a monster business. And what they did to preserve it may be motivated a lot by self-interest, but it is one of those times where the world does get a little bit better because they got this shock and they were like, holy, guacamole, we got to do something about this right now. And they did, and it didn't seem ham-handed. And, if it turns out that it was not necessary at this time, it was a great signal to send, even though it wasn't a signal. It was just like adrenaline, self-preservation. But that makes it even more authentic. So maybe I'll start watching some NASCAR races, oval, going around in circles.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys. That's all we've got for this one. If you enjoyed our discussion, be sure to like and subscribe below, and we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Thanks again. We hope you join us for the next edition of Take Two, presented by LeftRightPolitics.com.